Like the weathering of global air freight routes in recent weeks is starting to hit the primary sector, leaving processors grappling with logistics and soaring freight prices to try and maintain hard-won, far-flung markets. And one of the country's largest air freight companies, Mainfreight, has reported near collapse in the sector's capacity, which is responsible for exporting over 100,000 tonnes of product a year, 30% of which is primary produce. We now welcome to Sarah's country, recently appointed and extremely busy at the moment, CEO of Dairy Industry New Zealand, Innes Moffat. Innes, firstly, on a lighter note, you need to have downtime and all the craziness that you've got going on. What is something that you can share with the audience that you've been binge watching on these streaming services?
Look, I'm quite a fan of Better Call Saul.
Better Call Saul.
Better Call Saul. It's the prequel to Breaking Bad.
Oh, yes. That is good.
So, yeah. Such a flawed character.
Oh,
so many things wrong with him, but he's also a delight to watch as well.
Oh, cool, wonderful. Thank you for that share. Now, okay, we're talking about air freight there. How much is the air freight business affecting sort of the chilled meat sector, with everybody trying to get freight out at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think the statistic is that air freight capacity has been reduced by 95%. So that is a staggering reduction in the air freight capacity. For the venison business, the vast bulk of our product is exported by sea freight. But at this time of year, where we have a smaller volume of chilled going out, air freight is pretty important. And with all of the disruptions which are going on, we still have customers around the world who do want some chilled venison, but their exporters are having a real hard time in getting their product onto the planes and delivering it to them. Some of our exporters have got retail accounts on the east coast of the USA, Scandinavia, and continental Europe, and they are joining the queue to try and get some of that high-valued chilled venison onto the planes to deliver it to those customers.
So what are you doing? Just throwing it all in the freezer?
There's quite a reduction in processing capacity at the moment, so throughput is lower than it might be otherwise. As the processing companies do everything that they can to ensure worker safety, we have seen probably a 50% reduction in processing capacity for the venison processors. But yes, and at this time of year, most of our venison is going into the freezer anyway. It's being cut to specification for customers for delivery later in the year. But there are some disruptions to that trade as well.
So we obviously are quite excited about the fact that China's even just moving one step more forward in terms of foreign products being better for food safety with what's been going on. But obviously deer has made the wildlife list. How is that sort of interrupting supply chains into China?
Yeah, so China was a developing market for us up until about 3 or 4 months ago. And then with the increase in beef prices, a number of the Chinese importers began looking at paying more attention to our high quality farm raised venison. And so over the last couple of months of 2019, we saw a dramatic increase in exports, up to about 10% of our total venison exports. So China was becoming a very important market for us. So it's a bit of a confusing situation. Venison is not banned in China, and companies can still get containers of venison into China. It is being cleared through customs, but the Chinese are applying the rules. They are saying that we will allow approved meats to be imported and sold, and we won't allow unapproved meats to be imported and sold. The central government just hasn't been particularly clear about which products are on which list. So it's being left up to some of the individual regional authorities to try and work out what that means. And there have been some lists which have been provisionally issued, which include sheep, beef, pork, donkey, rabbits, but don't include venison. So we're working really hard with the government at the moment for them to be able to provide some clarification and confirmation to the central government and also to some of the regional authorities that we've got the protocols in place. They're allowed to import New Zealand farm-raised venison. It's a high-quality, safe food, and we want to be able to be providing it to Chinese consumers and also a lot of the high-end Western restaurants where that product was going in prior to the lockdown.
Talking about restaurants, the wonderful Chef Graham Brown, has been doing a lot of work with chefs in the US, educating them around farm-raised, grass-fed venison, of course, to be consumed in these high-end restaurants, yet now a lot pivoting quite quickly into this online home delivery. How is our New Zealand venison placed to take up that?
Yeah, it's going to take a bit of time to get onto some of these new delivery channels. Whilst the American food scene is very dynamic, it's also kind of conservative, and they like what they like. They like beef, pork, chicken, salmon. So getting venison onto a menu or onto a home delivery kit means they've got to take another protein off. So we've got a great product. It's lean, it's delicious, it's tender. It'll work. It works really well. I had venison meatballs for tea tonight, but it's going to take a bit of time to develop some of these alternative channels. So we're working hard on it. We've got Graham who's doing recipes, he's doing videos. We've got a representative in the USA and also a chef on the ground in Germany who are working alongside some of the importers and distributors, making contact with new customers, providing some samples, providing recipes and inspiration about how they can use venison on their menus and in some of their meal kits at the moment. Luckily for us, it's the low point in the venison consumption season. We are looking forward to a strong autumn again. There will be demand for New Zealand venison at that time, and I think people will be looking forward to delivering the chilled venison up to Europe during that traditional time of year.
Now, lastly, sadly, you've had to recently cancel your May conference, which I was so looking forward to. Finally got the call up, Innes, to MC after all of these years.
You made it. Well done.
Oh, maybe it was a curse. But the conference is such an important annual event for getting the important new science out to deer farmers. And in particular, it's not just venison, but velvet. You know, the velvet markets that over the last decade or so that Rhys Griffiths has been working very hard to build these pathways into Asia. Where is things at that you'd like to sort of share with farmers? Yeah,
again, we're kind of fortunate that it's the end of the velvet season. Most of the 2019 harvest has been exported. So farmers have received most of the payments for that. There's obviously been disruptions to the traditional Oriental market for deer velvet in Korea and in China. But we're confident that we've got very good distribution. There is an enormous new array of velvet products which are being sold through retail, velvet's primary purpose in Oriental medicine is around boosting the immune system and providing more energy. So we think there's opportunities for more year-round sales. And as the borders open up and as people begin to travel a little bit more, they'll be visiting those shops where they can buy those New Zealand deer velvet products. So we're again confident that the market will be strong in the year ahead.
Thank you so much, CEO of Deer Industry New Zealand, Innes Moffat.
This is Sarah's Country.